Hello everyone, welcome to this video where we are going to explore gradients of a curve. So let's recall that in the past, we have known that gradient of a straight line is a constant number given by this equation or this formula between any 2 points along that line. But for today's lesson, it is for a non-linear graph, which is a curve. And here comes the interesting point. Every point has its own gradient. Then how do we find the gradient at any point? That is the focus for today's exploration and some of the examples that follow up after this particular description and introduction. So gradient of a point on a curve, we do need to make sure that we draw this. What is this? This is a line that we draw on the point, meaning it touches that particular point on the curve. So to illustrate, right? So as you can see from this particular diagram below, this line, blue color line, is then what we call the tangent line. Tangent, which is a straight line. Okay? And it is drawn at this particular point at P. Okay? And this line then allows us to find any 2 points. I repeat, any 2 points. For example, in this case, is this 2 point, which will then be my x1, y1. My point 2 will be x2, y2. And then using these 2 points, I will then be able to apply what we have learnt previously about the gradient. And this particular point here is simply talking about the change in y, which is the vertical change, and this part here is the horizontal change. So we can find the change in y over change in x. And if I translate this to formula, then it simply means that this is equal to my y1 minus y2. This will give me my vertical change, divide by my x1 minus x2. This will give me my horizontal change. And of course, you can also rewrite it as y2 minus y1 over my x2 minus x1. They will yield the same value, okay? So meaning they are equal to each other as well. And that forms the basis on how we find gradient at any point on a curve. So the last point to take note is that this tangent line just touches the curve. I shall now follow up with 2 examples on how we can draw this tangent accurately, as well as to find the gradient at any point. Hello everyone. To illustrate the previous discussion on how do we find gradient of a curve at any given point. Now, this is the example, all right? we are given point A, which I'm going to highlight in green. That's the point. And what is the gradient at this particular point? So step 1, which you can refer to the steps at the right hand side of this particular video. Alright. Step 1 would then be to draw a tangent, which is a straight line to the curve at that required point. So I'm just going to fill in the blanks first. This tangent is a straight line that just touches the curve at the point. Okay, in this case 1 point lah, huh? Alright, so let's move to this particular graph here. I'm going to then draw this graph now, draw the tangent line. Let me just make sure I got my ruler. And let's get started. Okay. Alright, so that will be the tangent that we have just drawn. And what is step number 2? Step number 2 will then be to pick any 2 points. I repeat, any 2 points will do. So we are supposed to pick 2 points now. That is on the tangent line. So in this case here, I am going to pick this point here, which will be 3, 3. And I'm going to pick this point here. X is 1.5, Y is 0. So I repeat, you can pick any point, alright, on this tangent line. I'm going to just pick these 2 convenient points. And last is to just simply calculate the gradient using the formula. Okay, and the formula would be y1 minus y2 divided by x1 minus x2. And the last point to take note later on for is that actually the gradient is different at different points. Okay, so I'm going to now calculate the gradient for this particular point. Gradient at point A is just simply I will have my x1, y1. So this will be my y1 minus y2. So I will have 3 minus 0 divided by 3 minus 1.5. And that will give me 2. And I'm done. And we have come to the end of this example. So at this point, if you like this video, do give it a thumbs up and do subscribe to my channel as we explore more mathematics. I will now proceed to have another example to practice on this skill that we have just learned. How to draw a tangent to find a gradient at any point on a graph. Hello everyone, welcome to this example where we are given the graph y equals to x squared minus 1, beautifully plotted for us already. Our job now is to then use this graph to estimate the gradient at the following points. Okay, so I'm going to start with A, and I hope you all remember that when we are tasked to find the gradient of a point, we will first need to draw a tangent. Okay, a tangent is a straight line. So now for my first point, x equals to -1, it is at this point here that I highlighted. I'm going to pull out my ruler, and I'm going to draw a line now, a tangent line that just touches this particular graph. Okay, alright, so I will first draw a line that just touches this particular point where x equals to -1. Step 2, find 2 points, any 2 points. I repeat, any 2 points on this particular blue color tangent line that I have drawn. I'm going to use this point since that it is pretty easy to draw, to calculate. This point here will be my x is -2, y is 2, and I'm going to use this point here as well. -0.5, -1, and step 3. Now that I got my 2 points, all I have to do is to simply find the gradient for part A. So for part A, the gradient will be equals to my y1 minus y2. In this case, will be 2 minus -1 over -2 minus -0.5. That will give me -2. I am going to repeat this process for the next tangent line at x equals to 0. Okay, this is pretty straightforward because I realize this particular point where x equals to 0 happens to be a horizontal line. So this is for part B, okay? And we all know that for part B, the gradient will straight away be equals to 0 since the tangent is a horizontal line. Or horizontal line, the gradient is 0. Let's move on to part C, where I am going to draw a tangent where x is equals to 2. So that will be the point here. X equals to 2 is this point here. So we will need to then draw a tangent line here. And I'm going to draw the tangent line now. Okay. Step 1 done. Step 2, find any 2 points. I'm going to find this point here, which is easy to get. This one will be x is 3, y is 7. I'm going to find this point here, 1.5 and 1. So that my final part C is simply to make use of the formula y1 minus y2 divided by my x1 minus x2. That will give me a value of 4. With that, we have come to the end of this example. So I hope these 2 examples does give you an idea how we can actually find gradient at any point on a curve. Okay? Thank you for watching and have a nice day.